Peace and elevation. This is Brother Mike X. I'm across the street from the Apollo Theater. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please share and subscribe. I want to build with you right quick. I'm out here with my brother Nova.
What's going on? Brother Nova Felder. What's going on? Yeah.
Brother Nova is a book vendor out here across the street from the Apollo Theater. He has tons of books. And one of the things that I believe hampers us the most, as they say, our people have been destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And a lot of us, we don't connect anymore with the great teachers and scholars and warrior activists like that, you know, that we have had available to us. You know, we don't look to Brother Malcolm anymore. We don't look to Brother Jack Felder, Brother Nova's dad, you know, who was a strong scholar in his own right. We don't look to Dr. Khalid Muhammad and Dr. Kwame Ture, you know, and Marcus Garvey, and we don't look to our great scholars anymore. So we don't know that we have a heritage, a legacy of consciousness. You know what I mean? So what I want to do right quick is I want to ask Brother Nova a couple of questions. You know, how do we begin to unify again in a principled way, not in a conditional way? You know, a lot of times we have people who, you know, whatever they believe, they make that the condition of collaborating with you, you know, or a lot of times what they say they believe, it's not that they're practicing that, they're anti what's the opposite of what they say they claim. So if you're a Christian, you're anti-Muslim. If you're a Muslim, you anti-Christian. You know what I mean? If you know, a Democrat, you anti-Republican, or whatever it is, you know, you're not necessarily mastering or practicing what your consciousness says that you are supposed to become a master of. Okay, brother, you know, Nova, I hope that gave you something to, you know, dig into, man.
So I'm gonna just start with two separate quotes.
Yeah.
First, the black man, and I'll add woman, have been separated and made to live in their own country of color. If you are black, the only roads into mainland American life are through subservience, cowardice, loss of manhood, loss of womanhood, loss of personhood. That was said by Amiri Baraka, also known as Brother Leroy Jones, Mighty Ancestor. That's from a book called Social Essays by him, Amiri Baraka. Next quote is, the Negro knows everything and the Negro knows nothing.
Wow.
That was said by my father, Dr. Jack Felder. May he rest in power. Now, both those statements are analyzing in a very succinct way our condition as well as our thought processes. We must understand that, first things first, we are in a war, a captive situation after a battle, after a war. We're captives. We're not sitting here as full-fledged citizens of this nation, which is the United States of America at this current time. We are not full participants socially, politically, economically, still here in 2024. These are some of the same things that Malcolm was talking about, that many of our street speakers like Pork Chop Davis and so many more here in Harlem were talking about. Now, to tackle this subject about, we said, a principled unity that's operational as opposed to a conditional one.
Yes.
Right? That's what adults do. You and your wife in your house should share the same principles and values and agree upon those principles and values. But you can have differences in political ideology. You can have differences in, you know, food choice. There's a lot of things. But your principles are to stay the same, and you run your house off those principles, and you raise your children off those principles, and you work together as a family group, as two heads of a family, co-leaders, co-regents in that family. And because of our condition, and many of us are trying to run away from that reality, many of the arguments that I hear today leave out a hypercritical analysis of how we got into the condition. They deal with, this is what we should be doing, right? We have to, you know, let's just say like investment of money, right? We basically capitalists, right? Gaining of material wealth and some of these things. There's many of these investment clubs and YouTube channels and brothers and sisters out here that have written books and are saying these things that are, some of it is right and exact, but without having a principle unity, it's for naught that we have these material things. Because the mindset is far more important than the money, right? If you don't have a principled mindset, and we see this with lottery winners, people win the lottery because the American dream is to get a lot of money, right? Live on a house on the hill, drive the expensive car, do the extravagant vacations. Those people get that money and they lose it because they don't have the principles. They don't have the character to carry it out. So they act, or in some cases, many of our athletes, many of our musicians, they get these big exorbitant contracts and they lose the money. They don't build upon it because they don't have the principles, and we don't have the operational unity to educate those young brothers and sisters about what to do outside of spend your money, outside of freak off and other things that come with these things, right? These trappings of wealth, right? So it's really, and kind of like how we even started talking today was, I was espousing upon my frustration around organizing my people around any particular issue, right? For their benefit. Usually, if I'm a Muslim and another brother's a Christian, and I've had this happen, the brother won't deal with you. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. Won't deal with you as an equal because you're not in their faith. We've seen it happen. I'm sure all of you maybe have seen this or been part of it, with somebody that feels that they're more educated than you, or from a different class than you, economic class or social class, and they won't deal with you. And we come up with, and we have these frictions. And as you so eloquently stated, because we don't have the principle unity, we can't have operational unity. This conditional unity is what's hindering us and holding us back.
That's right.
Yes.
So instead of us so the principle unity, would you say that it would be based upon us seeing ourselves as a distinct group of people again?
Oh yes.
And not just basing our ability, and us basing our needs upon seeing ourselves as a people,
right?
Instead of seeing ourselves as Christians, or seeing ourselves
first,
as Muslims,
Christians first,
or seeing
Muslims
ourselves
first.
as 5%ers,
first,
or
right?
First,
Moors first,
but seeing ourselves as a
first.
people,
Right.
seeing ourselves as a people who happen to be 5%ers, who happen to be Christians, who happen to be Muslims in our individual lives, and that is what has allowed us to regain our humanity, and our consciousness.
So I'll just
to be principled. I'm
going to do another quote, but it'll be more of a paraphrase, right? Malcolm X, I was just reading it the other day. He said something to the effect that, they don't see black Christians. They don't see black Muslims. They don't see black Jews, right? They see a singular race of people that, some disparaging words they would say behind that, the N-word.
They don't hang you because you Christian. They don't hang you because you black.
That's it. That's the quote, right?
They hang you
because you're black.
So
at the end of the day, we have to understand, having that principle unity to have operational unity, we have to see ourselves, because when we are in this forest, this jungle, right, we are the prey, and the predator is not making a differentiation between what kind of prey are you. They see you as meat, and just based on that, that should be enough for us. But because we have been torn asunder,
Yeah.
we have been ripped from our womb, our mother's womb, we have been torn and split into all fours,
Yeah.
right? We have a illness, a disease, and we're still struggling and striving to deal with that disease, right? This white supremacist mindset that we've adopted wholly is what's holding us back. This is why you have to. I don't know if you know how many of you on this YouTube channel like are film buffs, but if you remember in Django, there are a few scenes where DiCaprio's character, who is basically the master on the plantation, is fighting these two big black bucks to death. They're fighting to the death.
Yeah.
And him and his boys are betting on who's going to win.
Yeah.
They're gouging out eyes, they're biting off ears. Very, very vile, very disgusting and violent for no reason. So we have to understand it's a reality that on the American, Caribbean, South American plantations, in varying degrees, we were pitted against each other based on skin color, based on every difference you can think of, age,
Absolutely.
virility, anything, any way that we could be divided, and we still carry that
And that's
many times today.
That's what I was just getting ready to ask you. Like,
Right.
You know, what role does the Willie Lynch process play in us becoming divided
I mean, it's
and
at
conquered
it's at the core.
due to our differences?
It's at the core.
Older versus younger.
Christian versus Muslim.
You know, woman
Tall
versus
short,
man.
That's raging.
You know,
To this
light
day,
skin versus
dark
dark
skin.
skin. Professional
Versus unprofessional, blue collar. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's central. I think our PTSD. Some people we could call it post-traumatic stress disorder. We could call it post-traumatic slavery disorder. That PTSD is real. Living in the hood is traumatic.
Yeah.
Dealing with microaggressions every day from outside of your community and inside of your community. Dealing with sexism. Dealing with all of these things are overwhelming at times, and you know we've internalized it. And until we start to have conversations like this,
Yeah.
right, where we're realistic about these things are not going to change. I'm going to implore everybody to look up two psychologists, sociologists in our community, Julia and Nathan Hare. Back in the 70s, they got their PhDs, and at the core of their research was talking about why do we have these differences as in our family group. You know, how far has this PTSD gone? That's the same. Yo. How far have these differences gone in our main relationship is the one between man and woman, right? And what there is to be done about it. They were the creators of the Black Think Tank. Every year they had conferences on black relationships, the black family, the black community, and so on and so forth. So these are people that we have to still study and look to, right? It's not just about us having and understanding our history, but it's also about analyzing our condition, right? Analyzing our problems, right? And I think that's the only way we get back to square one, right? Or let's say some musicians out there, how we get back on the one, how we all get back on beat as a family. You know what I'm saying? And I just think, you know, it's a lot of hard work, and I think many of us want the easy route and want the easy way. But the reality is life is hard, and it's going to take a lot of work to change this condition.
Now, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we are here with Brother Nova, and we're striving to figure out how we can begin to stand in our truth as individuals. Like if you're a Christian, then you should be striving to master your own life, your own circumstances as an individual, so that you can come out and be a stable man or a stable woman you know, who was able to organize your life and live your life, you know what I mean, based upon what you believe in, but not be anti your brother because they may be practicing something different that allows them to be a stable man or a woman. Like, what are some of the principles that we need to begin to identify with that will bring us together as a people again? Like, one of the things that I like the most, and it happened in, you know, I know it was a movie, but I like the Black Panther movie of 2018, the first one, where you had T'Challa and he was the king, and you had about 4 or 5 different tribes, you know what I mean, that practiced different cultural, ethnic tendencies, but they still subscribed to Wakanda, you know, as a nation. They may have been practicing different habits, you know, unique to their tribe, but they all agreed that Wakanda, we all serve and we're all committed to seeing a sovereign Wakanda, you know, that allows us to provide for our food, our clothing, our shelter, you know what I mean, for our children, for our, you know, for our elders. You know, how important is it for us to try to build community again, or see ourselves as a nation again, the same way other races and ethnicities have their little Italies, the way they have their Chinatowns, you know, the way the Jews are able to come together and maintain, you know, themselves as a distinct community where they control the economics, they control the politics, and they use their social unity to empower them politically and economically. So how important is it for us to begin to see ourselves as a people, for us to begin to practice principles that will allow us to unify across the different tribes that we subscribe to, you know, to stand together, you know, as one, to carve out independent, sovereign, autonomous communities again. We have to learn how to collaborate in a principled way, you know, practicing the understanding that 2 or more things can be true at the same time. You know, whatever your spiritual practice is, if that's what has liberated you from seeing yourself as a slave or a peon or a dependent, and it's allowed you to claim your own sovereignty as an individual, you know, you're not going to give that up, you know, because somebody else says, yo, you need to stop being of this so that you can practice what I believe in. And we shouldn't put that upon each other. We need to figure out how do we build upon what we agree on instead of, you know, continuing to fight on what we don't agree upon. You know what I mean? So I want to close this out in like another
100.
Yeah.
100.
Yeah, man. So, brother, I'm gonna give the last couple of words to you, brother. We're gonna continue to build. I want y'all to be able to come out and support people like Brother Nova. Brother Nova has dozens, maybe hundreds of books, man. You got to be a lifelong learner, number one. You can't continue to see yourself as a slave, you know, or you can't continue to see yourself as dependent upon the goodwill of the lesser of 2 evils, you know what I mean? And allow other people to make you feel like you're allegiant to them over you being allegiant to yourself and allegiant to your own people. So, brother, close us out on that.
Yo, at the end of the day, we as a collective, right? And I'm not just talking to black people here in the United States of America. As a collective, there's billions of black people on this planet. If black people do not look at themselves, begin to look at themselves as one people and work together to that end, even though we are a majority of the people on the planet, we will continue to be subservient. We will continue to be under the boot of other races. We are global people. not only are global people, we're the world's first people, hence why we're so spread out and all over the world. So principle unity, and I say let's try to get a top 3. 1, I will not harm another black person. Number 2, I will not disagree with another black person for disagreeing's sake. Number 3, I will love myself, my family, and my people by extension. And number 4, I'll add, I will give an advantage if and when I have a position to be able to give an advantage to another person that looks like me, irregardless of how that person thinks, irregardless of how that person practices a religion, spiritual faith, but most of all, love that person and give that person an opportunity. Now, with that, I'm gonna let everybody know I'm also a member of, an executive of an organization called Bridging Africa and Black America. Our website is Baba Unity, that's BABAUNITY.org, and we stand for Bridging Africa and Black America. The organization works to unify the black diaspora in America and the whole world through civic, social, and political programming that we either curate or sponsor or partner with other organizations. On Sunday, August 18th, we are doing a Black August Unity Community Cookout at Reverend T. Wendell Foster Recreation Center in the Bronx. It's the Reverend T. Wendell Foster Recreation Center in the Bronx from 12 noon to 5 p.m. Baba Unity's Black August Unity Community Cookout. So we, as African Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Latinos, Afro-Indigenous, right? And anybody that's black, we know who we are, we know what we look like, can come, commune, be a family, drink, eat, and be merry as a family. And then get down and talk about small things, but we got to know each other as a family first.
Yeah.
And these are one of the first steps. You know, as my brother says, put your money where your mouth is. Spend your time doing what's right. Right? And yeah, follow my crew, babaunity.org, Bridging Africa, Black America, across social media. You should be able to find us and support that work. And in your community, wherever you at, start on your own. Work together as a family. Principle unity, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember those principles.
Absolutely.
And black love and black power on Dr. Jack Felder's tip. That's what I tell him.
Absolutely. So let us begin to practice, you know, a intra-tribal unity. You know, let's cover all the tribes. You know, let 5%ers and Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and others, let us begin to come together, you know. And it's not going to start with us all collectively. You're not going to have all Christians miraculously unite with all Muslims, you know, in the black community. You're not going to have all 5%ers, you know, begin to practice, you know, unity with Buddhists or others. It's going to start on an individual level, you know, like me and Brother Nova building, you know, today, based upon where we agree. I stand in my truth and I live in my truth. He stands in his truth and he lives in his truth. You know what I mean? We didn't come together to put this video together, you know, based upon he has to agree with everything I believe, or I have to drop what I believe to agree with him. We both agree that we need to be more collaborative. We need to be more empowered on a local level. That's another principle. We need to begin to build local grassroots empowerment again. You know what I mean? We're not all gonna live in California. We're not all gonna live in Atlanta. We're not all gonna live in Chicago or New York or the Bronx or Brooklyn or Queens. You know, we're gonna live in all of those places at the same time. So a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We need to start building strength and power within those links. If you live in the Bronx, then we need to be striving to be strong in the Bronx. If you live in Brooklyn, be strong in Brooklyn. If you live in Atlanta, be strong there. You know what I mean? Practice collaboration, practice consciousness, practice empowerment. You know what I mean? And having said that, man, this is Brother Mike X, man. We're going to sign off. We're going to continue to build. Please share this video. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And commit yourself to becoming a lifelong learner. Stand in your truth. You know what I mean? In your strength as an individual. Master your own life. You know what I mean? So that you can bring strength to the collaboration instead of disagreement. You know what I mean? And being arbitrary and combative. Peace and elevation, man. Signing off.